Okay, the organization meeting of the Westchester Area School District Board of Directors will now begin. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mr. Bevilacqua.
Here.
Ms. Chester.
You're muted.
Here.
Mr. Durnell.
Here.
Mr. Gallen.
Here.
Dr. Herman.
Here.
Mr. McCune.
Here.
Dr. Shaw.
Here.
Mr. Spackman.
Here.
Mrs. Tiernan.
Here.
Okay, moving on to public comment on agenda items. There were no comments on agenda items tonight. And now we're going to do the election of the temporary president. Nominations for the election of the temporary president are now open. Mr. McCune?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Mr. Gary Bevilacqua for temporary president.
Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no other nominations, may I have a motion to close the nomination?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Spackman, seconded by Mrs. Tiernan. Okay, roll call. Mr. Spackman?
Yes.
Mrs. Tiernan?
Yes.
Ms. Chester?
Yes.
Mr. Gallen?
Yes.
Mr. McCune?
Yes.
Dr. Herman?
Yes.
Dr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Durnell?
Yes.
Mr. Bevilacqua?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Now we're moving on to, may I have a motion for Mr. Bevilacqua to serve as temporary president?
So move.
That was Dr. Shaw, right?
Yep.
Okay, may I have a second?
I second it.
Dr. Herman. Roll call. Dr. Shaw?
Yes.
Dr. Herman?
Yes.
Ms. Chester?
Yes.
Mr. Durnell?
Yes.
Mrs. Tiernan?
Yes.
Mr. Spackman?
Yes.
Mr. Gallen?
Yes.
Mr. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Bevilacqua?
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this
You're
time.
in charge.
Yes. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
I'll make it quick. At this time, we'd like to take nominations for the board president to serve until the organization meeting of next year of December 2021. They're now open. Would anybody like to nominate the president? Go ahead, Mrs. Tiernan.
I'd like to nominate Chris McCune as for president.
Thank you. We recognize that. We nominate. Is there any other nominations at this time? All right. Seeing no further nominations, may I have a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
All right, Mrs. Chester, a second, please.
Second.
All right, Mr. Spackman, thank you. Ms. Chester, sure. Roll call, please.
Ms. Chester?
Yes.
Mr. Spackman?
Yes.
Dr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Durnell?
Yes.
Mr. Gallen?
Yes.
Dr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Tiernan?
Yes.
Mr. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Bevilacqua?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Continuing on, at this time, may I have a motion for Mr. McCune to serve as the board president?
So moved.
All right, Ms. Chester, can I have a second, please?
I second.
All right, Dr. Herman, thank you. Ms. Chester, roll call, please.
Ms. Chester?
Yes.
Dr. Herman?
Yes.
Dr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Spackman,
Yes.
Mr. Gowan,
Yes.
Mrs. Tiernan,
Yes.
Mr. Durnell,
Yes.
Mr. McCune,
Yes.
Mr. Bevilacqua.
Yes.
Motion carries. Now you're in charge.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bevilacqua. Thank you, Ms. Cherishore. Moving along here, I'd like to seek nominations for board vice presidents to serve until the reorganization meeting of 2021 are now open. Mr. Durnell.
Sue Tiernan.
Okay. Anyone else like to nominate one? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the nominations. First by Mr. Bevilacqua, seconded by Mr. Gowan. Roll call, please, Ms. Cherishore. Wait, first I'll entertain a motion to close the nomination, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, first to close the nomination process.
So, Mr. Bevilacqua,
Yes.
Mr. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. Durnell,
Yes.
Dr. Herman,
Yes.
Mrs. Tiernan,
Yes.
Ms. Chester,
Yes.
Dr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Spackman,
Yes.
Mr. McCune.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Cherishore. Now may I have a motion for Mrs. Tiernan to serve as board vice president? First by Mr. Bevilacqua, second by Mr. Gowan. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bevilacqua,
Yes.
Mr. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. Spackman,
Yes.
Ms. Chester,
Yes.
Dr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mrs. Tiernan,
Yes.
Mr. Durnell,
Yes.
Dr. Herman,
Yes.
Mr. McCune.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Cherishore. All right, next up on the agenda is the appointment of our solicitor. Mr. Spackman, do you have a motion?
Yes, please. I'd like to make a motion. It is recommended that the firm of Turner, Unruh, Burke, and Fries be retained as solicitor of the Westchester Area School District at a rate of $180 and $165 per hour, based on the experience of the lawyers, until the next organizational meeting of the board in December 2021. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Spackman. Can I get a second?
Second it.
Seconded by Dr. Herman, who beat Ms. Tiernan out just by a little bit there. Just want to note that for the record. I am paying attention to the video screen. Roll call, please, Ms. Cherishore.
Mr. Spackman,
Yes.
Dr. Herman,
Yes.
Mrs. Tiernan,
Yes.
Dr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Bevilacqua,
Yes.
Ms. Chester,
Yes.
Mr. Durnell,
Yes.
Mr. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. McCune.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Cherishore. All right, up next is the notice of regular school board meetings. So the monthly school board meetings are currently being held via Zoom and the Westchester Area School District YouTube channel. When allowable, meetings will be held at 782 Springdale Drive, Exton, PA. All meetings begin at 7 p.m. And this is the following summary of the monthly meetings for next year. Starting with December 21st, 2020 this year, January 25th, 2021, February 22nd, 2021, March 22nd, 2021, Monday, April 26th, 2021, Wednesday, May 26th, 2021, June 28th, 2021, July 26th, 2021, August 23rd, 2021, September 27th, 2021, October 25th, 2021, November 22nd, 2021, and then the annual organization meeting on December 6th, 2021. Okay, can I get one to place a motion in terms of readoption of school board policy, rules, and regulations? Mr. Bevilacqua?
It is recommended that the school board policy, rules, and regulation presently in effect be readopted until the next organization meeting of next year of the board in December 2021. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Bevilacqua. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Spackman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bevilacqua,
Yes.
Mr. Spackman,
Yes.
Ms. Chester,
Yes.
Mr. Gallen,
Yes.
Dr. Shaw,
Yes.
Dr. Herman,
Yes.
Mr. Durnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Tiernan,
Yes.
Mr. McCune.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Cherisher. Up next is the adoption of the standard board meetings. Can I get a motion? Committee, standing board committees, sorry.
I so move.
All right.
Second.
Just real quick, I'm going to read it, and then we have Mrs. Tiernan as number one. It is recommended that the board adopt the following standing board committees: education, pupil services, property and finance, and personnel. So Mrs. Tiernan is number one. Can I get a second?
Second it.
Oh, that was a close one. We go back to the tape there. I'm going to give that one to Ms. Chester.
Okay.
By a hair. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tiernan,
Yes.
Ms. Chester,
Yes.
Mr. Spackman,
Yes.
Mr. Bevilacqua,
Yes.
Dr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Durnell,
Yes.
Dr. Herman,
Yes.
Mr. Gallen,
Yes.
Mr. McCune.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Cherisher. All right, up next is the adoption of the standard board committee. So as I mentioned, we went through the what the committees would be, or the names of the standing board committees. So we're going to have Mrs. Tiernan chair education, with Dr. Shaw, Ms. Chester, and Mr. Durnell serving as the committee members. For pupil services, we're going to have Ms. Chester serve as the chair, with Mr. Durnell, Dr. Shaw, and Mrs. Tiernan as the committee members. For property and finance, we're going to have Mr. Bevilacqua chair, with the other committee members being Mr. Gallen, Mr. Spackman, and Dr. Herman. For personnel, Dr. Herman is going to chair, with Mr. Spackman, Mr. Gallen, and Mr. Bevilacqua as the members. And then I'm also going to make note of our additional committee reports that we do have come out. So we have Dr. Shaw reprising her role as the legislative liaison, Mrs. Tiernan at the IU unit, Dr. Herman at the PSBA, Mr. Durnell with the equity. And then we also have a new committee we're going to start this year with the community liaison, which Mr. Spackman is going to fill that role. The focus of that role will be outreach to the Education Foundation and other community groups like the Chamber of Commerce, as well as historical reports on our different buildings and the history of the district. So I so move. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Bevilacqua. Any comments or questions? All right. Seeing none, I'm all very excited to have everyone back in the similar capacity to last year and into good work continuing forward this year. Roll call, please. When do we need that?
Sorry, Mr. McCune,
Yes.
Mr. Bevilacqua,
Yes.
Mrs. Tiernan,
Yes.
Mr. Spackman,
Yes.
Dr. Shaw,
Yes.
Dr. Herman,
Yes.
Mr. Gallen,
Yes.
Ms. Chester,
Yes.
Mr. Durnell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Cherisher. Are there any comments from residents?
No comments from residents tonight.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cherisher. I do want to share something to wrap up the meeting before we have a motion to adjourn there. So I happen to be going through some articles I had been reading during the COVID stretch here, and there was a report about positive leadership in uncertain times, and made me think very much of this administration and our board here. And it's by McKinsey and Company. And I just want to share a quick excerpt from it and then a short quote. So the article started with, most leaders are struggling to find the right path through the COVID-19 crisis. Acting on 3 imperatives can help pave the way. For leaders, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated unprecedented change. More than ever, the health of organizations is urgently and visibly linked with the health of their workforces, the health of our society, and the health of our planet. Previously unimaginable shifts in our daily lives are compelling organizations to adapt quickly and identify creative, unconventional ways to operate and survive. Nationwide uncertainty makes it more difficult for leaders to find their footing, and those who like to operate from a place of clarity are finding few ports in this global storm. The question most leaders are facing then is, how do we move forward in such a uniquely uncertain circumstances? Positive, effective leadership helps us navigate crisis, rebuild communities, and forge ahead in moments of ambiguity. But with so many challenges colliding at once, many leaders may be struggling to chart a clear way forward. To gain a foothold and respond effectively, leaders should act on 3 imperatives: clarifying your purpose, supporting your stakeholders, and bolstering your emotional and organizational resilience. So again, I just thought when I had read that, a few months ago, I wanted to share it. Was just very reflective of where we are in our journey and the approach that we've taken. So I'd like to share this quote as we are. You never know what's around the corner. It could be everything or it could be nothing. You keep putting one foot in front of the other, and then one day you look back and you've climbed a mountain. Tom Hiddleston. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. First by Mr. Gowan, second by
Second it.
Dr. Herman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you much, everybody. Oh, we don't need a roll call. Good. Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned.